Hello!
The Raspberry Pi, the little computer that could, is a totally meaningless phrase I just invented. So yes, you know of the Raspberry Pi. Look, it's a tiny wee little computer, and it'll do all the things computers do, pretty much. Doesn't have much power behind it, but plenty enough to be doing many, many common tasks. This is one of the old 2011 Raspberry Pi Model 1s. You can tell there's fewer USB ports. It's got a composite TV out and a full-size SD card slot. Anyway, that's enough technicals. We're here to talk about the cases. For if you are a human much like myself who loves a bit of the old retro games, then you will have heard, of course, of Retropie, which is basically an operating system that you stick on these and then it'll run emulators for all your old computers and consoles and things and do a bloody good job too, for the vast, vast majority of them. And of course, the problem is, you may have your Raspberry Pi, but you need a case to keep it in, don't you? Now, the early ones were much like this, just sort of cut acrylic with a little flap on top so you can easily access the bits inside. Very much a hobbyist case, very much functional, very much as ugly as a hobgoblin's bumhole. I've also never personally been a fan of see-through stuff. Xbox Crystal, didn't want one. Anyway, the point is, cases. Started off a bit, yeah, not that exciting, but now we're on the Raspberry Pi 3, well, the Raspberry Pi 4 being released very, very shortly. May already be out, in fact, but a bit early for the software to have reached it as yet. So they're giving you nicer cases. Look, here's an official sort of Raspberry Pi one with the Raspberry Pi logo etched into it. And this is much nicer, look. It covers everything nicely and looks like something you wouldn't really mind too much having on the old shelf. And you can take the top off, look, and then access the insides. This is a Model 2 in this one, incidentally, which has very similar footprints to Model 3. And you can pull it all to bits and remove the Raspberry Pi from it, which is going to be useful in a second. Because, of course, if you've got all your retro games and things on it, you might want quite a retro-looking case for it, as opposed to one of these generic ones. And so I went onto Amazon years ago and got, wait for it, a generic NES-looking case. Old school entertainment system. From, yeah, you can focus if you like. That'd be nice for everyone, wouldn't it? Thank you. The old school entertainment system from the days when you spelt school with a K, apparently. Maybe it's being run by the people who make Mortal Kombat. No idea. But yeah, it's very simple. I mean, you stick that in there. There's a big... well, don't really know what that's for. Basically, I think that's probably for, really, to make it more NES-shaped. Although, really, it should be that way round, shouldn't it? 'Cause who cares? The point is, you put stuff in it, and it's just a sort of cheap plastic case that you can open that up and have access to the USB and the Ethernet and all that. Lovely, lovely. And it's not very well made. It's just sort of cheap plastic, but it does the job. You know, it keeps the dust out, stops the weevils getting in your games, all that kind of stuff. But I tell you what, friends, it was still quite expensive. I think it cost me about £15 still by the time it got delivered, and it doesn't really feel worth that. But then, along came a company called Retroflag. Now, Retroflag make cases for Raspberry Pis and stuff, and I tell you what, they put a lot of bloody effort into it, to the extent that it made this look like a big sack of old shite. Here it is, the NES Pi Case Plus. Retroflag for all of us. Ooh, there's a hair on it. Ooh. Anyway, that's not relevant. That didn't come with it. Stuck a Raspberry Pi 3 in this one, if you're interested. So yeah, it looks a lot nicer, as you can see. It's made out of much, much better plastic, and fits together nicer. Also, has 3 ports. Look, so you've got immediate access to 2 USB for your controllers. Also, the power and reset buttons actually bloody work, because they're on a pass-through as well. Underneath, right, you remove this, you've got a little somewhere to keep spare SD cards for the images and that. SD card goes on the side there, you've got access directly to it, blah, blah, blah. Flip this up, whoop, and you've got pass-throughs for 2 more of the USBs and the bloody network. How nifty is that? The answer, friends, is obviously quite nifty. I mean, you know, if you haven't worked that one out, I'm going to spoil that for you. So yeah, I got hold of this, which incidentally was only about, I think it was about £4 more than this. Oh, I felt like such a fool. But it was so nice. I ended up getting more because recently many of my friends have been saying, oh, I really want Raspberry Pi, can you help us out? Because they are a bit of a fiddly thing to set up. Or if you know where to go on the internet, you can just download images to the SD cards and it's much easier. But don't tell anyone I said that. So yeah, here's some more nice ones from the collection of Mr. Retroflag, or possibly Mrs. Retroflag, or maybe just Retroflag, because, I don't know, it's a robot that makes them. And I wouldn't be surprised, due to the beauty of them. Look at this Super Nintendo case. Oh, sorry, Super Pi case. Hey, we're not worried about, copyright and stuff. This is slightly annoying. The screws I used to attach a fan here were slightly too long. Come through the case. Doesn't matter, just annoys me. So yeah, you've got access to the ports in the back, blah, blah, blah. You have got on the side here, you can flip it open, and you've got direct access to the network port and 2 more USB. If I can actually get that back in there, that might help. SD card on the slot again, on the side even. And USB ports, pass-throughs at the front. How absolutely spiffing. And power button. Reset button. What more do you want? An eject button? What is there to eject? Yeah, and you can keep spare SD cards, micro SD cards in there. Retroflag really, really like the storage of micro SD, because I've just realised there's something written in here that I've never seen before. I don't even make that at home. It says, we are not held responsible for any damage caused in use. Oh, so if you throw it through a window, don't blame Retroflag. But yeah, again, beautifully built, really nicely designed, really solid plastic, just such a nice thing. Available probably about 20 quiddish, I think, on Amazon. Not 20 quidditch. That's like a Harry Potter thing. Now, I did also get, in my defence, it was the early days, this American-looking Super Nintendo, and Retroflag do a really nice one. I bought this really cheap one, and it's just so bloody cheap. It really is just too clunky with its plastic. I did get this one quite... Well, again, it was far more than it probably should be worth. The buttons don't do anything, as on here. Well, this one, yeah, just moulded nothings. And, well, if you want to see what it looks like with one in, I've never actually put one in, but there we are. Seems like unnecessarily large, actually. At least there's room for a fan, I suppose. There we are. That's my American SNES. I mean, look at that. Look at that. Ugh. Let's just put it to one side and pretend I didn't spend money on it. Now, the next one, you may remember from the model Mega Drive video I did a while ago, I briefly showed the lovely Mega Pi case, possibly my personal fave. Based on the Japanese Mega Drive, you've got 2 pass-throughs at the front. You've got the reset button and the power. You flip this up for access to the SD card. I actually need to put something... It's so tight, I have to put something in to prise it open, so I can't do it with my fingers, like ripping the thumbnail off. I've done that on enough Sega Saturn cases in the past, thank you. And something else I really like, push that, and you've got direct access to the... oh, you can't see there because it's too dark. Let me flip it. There we are. 2 more USB ports, and the network there. I think this is my favourite of them, actually. Of the standard Retropie thing you connect to your telly. It's just such a nicely made thing, such attention to detail, so beautifully put. Oh, it's so nice! I like it this much. 3,000. Also, they come in quite nice boxes as well, isn't it? There we are. Problem is, these things are often out of stock. And if there's only a few left, they tend to get crazy expensive. So I don't know if you can get them from Retroflag direct or not. Actually, I presume you can. I've always bought mine off a reseller, but there you go. Sudden jump cut! Because I realised I totally forgot to show you my favourite part of this. I may have shown this on a previous video, but I love it so much. The headphone volume control thing is now eject. Yep, that's where you store your SD cards. Quite a few micro SD cards. Just imagine the rattle. Also, this is a fresh case, so I thought I'd show you what you actually get inside them. Basically, look, your pass-throughs for USB. Here's a little connector thing to put on because, as we said earlier, these reset and power buttons all actually work, and this has a safety power-off thing. Because the annoying thing of a Raspberry Pi is you have to kind of shut it down before you actually turn it off. This will automatically do that when flicked off. Oh, that's good, isn't it? Second jump cut, because it turns out you can't push it open from the inside. Right, ready? I've got a tool and everything. Sproing, it is open. And that's where the SD card goes, or the micro SD, to be more specific. Right, something I am going to mention, because I've seen people fall foul of this on the internet and report it, so let's give a public service announcement. As you can probably tell in this case, the old micro SD sticks out a little bit, so never ever ever install or remove a Raspberry Pi from this case if it has a micro SD card installed, because it might literally snap in half in this, so do be careful out there. That was an announcement for all humans. Right then, that will do for part 1 of this video. For part 2, we'll be looking at handheld versions, for there is a case, well, there's probably more than one, but I only know of one, to turn a full-size Raspberry Pi into a handheld device, but also for the Raspberry Pi Zero, which is a tiny wee credity card-sized Raspberry Pi. Wait for it. It has a familiar design. Oh, no, they didn't. Well, no, they obviously did. It's right here, right now. Anyway, we'll show you this next time. Going now, bye. We call that a teaser.
Subscribe for more.